Can I ask you something personal? When was the last time you sat in complete silence and actually heard silence? Not that ringing, not that hissing, not that high pitched tone that seems to live somewhere deep inside your head, following you from the bedroom to the kitchen, from the morning all the way into the dark hours of the night. If you cannot remember the last time your ears were truly quiet, I want you to stay with me today, because what I'm about to share with you is not what most doctors are telling their patients, and it may be the most important thing you hear all year, no pun intended. I am Ibrahim Khan, and today we are diving deep into something that affects tens of millions of people over the age of 60, and yet is one of the most misunderstood and undertreated conditions in modern medicine. We are talking about that persistent ringing, buzzing, or hissing in the ears that many people know as tinnitus. And I want to tell you right from the start, if your doctor looked at you and said, well, it is just part of getting older, learn to live with it, please know that is one of the most frustrating and frankly incomplete answers in healthcare today. Now, before we go any further, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, how long have you been dealing with this ringing? 1 year, 5 years, more? I read every single comment, and your stories genuinely shape the content I bring you every week. So let us start with something that most people, and honestly, even many doctors, do not fully understand about tinnitus. Most people think it is an ear problem, and that makes sense on the surface, right? The sound seems to be coming from the ear, so it must be an ear issue. But here is what some fascinating research in the neuroscience space has been suggesting over the past several years. Tinnitus, in many cases, is not purely an ear problem, it is a brain processing problem, and that changes everything about how we think about helping the body find relief. Here is a simple way to think about it. Picture a smoke alarm in your home. Now, imagine the batteries are running low and the alarm starts beeping randomly, even though there is no smoke, no fire, nothing wrong at all. That beeping is not the alarm detecting a real problem. It is the alarm malfunctioning because it is not getting the power it needs to work properly. Some researchers and clinicians believe this is very similar to what happens with tinnitus. The auditory system, which includes both the inner ear and the brain's sound processing centers, starts sending and receiving faulty signals, not because something is burning, but because the system is not getting the nutritional and circulatory support it needs to function cleanly. And when the system is running on empty, the brain starts generating its own noise, trying to fill in the gaps. Now, I want to share something with you that I think is going to open your eyes a little. I had a patient, a lovely woman named Margaret, 67 years old, retired school teacher from Ohio, absolute sweetheart. She came to me after 3 years of dealing with a constant high pitched ringing in both ears. She had seen two ENT specialists, had a full hearing evaluation, and was told her hearing was, quote, within normal limits for her age. She was handed a pamphlet about white noise machines and sent on her way. When Margaret sat across from me, she said, Dr. Weston, I am not sleeping properly. I cannot concentrate on my reading. And honestly, I am starting to feel anxious all the time. That ringing is making me feel like I am losing my mind. And I want to tell you what I told her. Margaret, what you are experiencing is real, it is valid, and there are things we can look at that may genuinely support your body's ability to quiet this down. Let us not accept silence as the answer when there is still so much we can explore. And what I'm about to walk you through today are the key areas that many practitioners simply do not check or discuss when it comes to tinnitus. We are going to talk about nutrition, circulation, nerve health, stress chemistry, and some daily habits that some people report have made a meaningful difference. So stay with me, because what is coming up in the next few minutes could genuinely shift how you think about this condition. Let us start with something that surprises a lot of people, and that is the connection between zinc and ear health. Your inner ear actually contains one of the highest concentrations of zinc found anywhere in the human body. That alone should tell you how important this mineral is for auditory function. Zinc plays a significant role in protecting the delicate hair cells inside your cochlea, which is the snail shaped structure deep in your ear that converts sound vibrations into electrical signals. Your brain can interpret. These hair cells are constantly under oxidative stress, meaning they are dealing with a kind of biological wear and tear every single day. Zinc, along with other antioxidants, helps protect these cells from that damage. Now, here is something interesting, and this is the part that many people miss. You could be consuming zinc regularly through your food and still be functionally low in it at the cellular level. Certain foods, particularly highly processed grains, can contain compounds called phytates that actually blocks zinc absorption in the gut. So someone eating what they think is a balanced diet could still be running deficient where it counts most. Some studies suggest that people experiencing chronic tinnitus tend to have lower circulating zinc levels than those who do not. Foods that are naturally rich in bioavailable zinc include pumpkin seeds, lean red meat, chickpeas, cashews, and oysters if you enjoy them. These are worth considering as regular parts of your weekly meals. But wait before you move on, because what I am going to cover next is something I genuinely believe is overlooked by most mainstream tinnitus discussions, and it connects your stress levels directly to the volume of that ringing in your head. Have you ever noticed that your tinnitus seems louder when you are tired, anxious, or under stress? There is a very real physiological reason for that. When your body enters a stress response, your brain releases higher levels of a neurotransmitter called glutamate. Glutamate is essentially the accelerator pedal of the nervous system. It excites neurons and gets them firing. Now, in normal healthy amounts, glutamate is essential, but when stress keeps pushing more of it into your auditory pathways, and there is not enough of a counterbalancing mineral to act as a brake, the nerve cells in your auditory cortex can essentially go into overdrive. They fire too fast, too intensely, and some researchers believe this overstimulation contributes directly to that perception of phantom sound. The mineral that acts as that brake pedal, by the way, is magnesium. And magnesium deficiency is extraordinarily common, particularly in adults over 60. Some estimates suggest that a significant portion of older adults are not getting adequate magnesium through their diets alone. Magnesium rich foods include dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, avocados, almonds, black beans, and dark chocolate in modest amounts. The connection between magnesium and tinnitus has been explored in several preliminary studies, and many people report noticing a difference in the intensity of their symptoms when their magnesium levels are properly supported. I am not making guarantees here, I never will, but it is certainly an area worth discussing with your own doctor. Now, let us talk about something that I think is genuinely life changing for a lot of my older patients, and that is the role of vitamin B12 in nerve health. As we age, our stomachs naturally produce less of a compound called intrinsic factor, which is absolutely essential for absorbing vitamin B12 from food. This means that even if you are eating B12 rich foods like eggs, meat, and fish, you may not actually be absorbing as much as your body needs. And B12 is not optional for your nervous system, it is critical. Every nerve in your body, including your auditory nerve, is wrapped in a protective sheath called myelin. Think of myelin like the rubber insulation around an electrical wire. When B12 is insufficient over time, that insulation can thin and deteriorate. And when nerve insulation breaks down, the electrical signals those nerves carry can become erratic, leaky, and distorted. Some medical researchers have observed that people with low B12 levels have a higher prevalence of tinnitus and other neurological symptoms. And here is the tricky part. Standard blood tests often flag B12 as fine when it falls anywhere in a very broad reference range, but optimal nerve function, particularly in older adults, may require levels toward the higher end of that range. This is something worth having a specific detailed conversation with your personal doctor about. Ask them to not just check your B12, but to discuss what level is truly optimal for your age and your neurological symptoms. Margaret, my patient I mentioned earlier, turned out to have B12 levels that were technically within the normal range, but sitting right at the very bottom of it. After addressing that with her doctor's guidance, she reported within several weeks that the intensity of her tinnitus had noticeably softened. I cannot promise that will happen for everyone, but her experience is not unique in my practice. If this is resonating with you, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button right now It truly helps me reach more people who need this information, and it only takes a second. Now, let us talk about something that almost never comes up in a standard tinnitus consultation, and that is blood circulation to the inner ear. Your inner ear is supplied by one of the tiniest blood vessels in your entire body. The artery that feeds it is so small that even minor changes in blood flow or blood viscosity, meaning how thick or thin your blood is, can have a significant impact on how well the inner ear is nourished. When circulation is compromised, those hair cells we talked about earlier can begin to suffer. They do not get the oxygen and nutrients they need, and they start sending abnormal signals. Now, here is a pro tip that very few people talk about, and I want you to write this down. Chronic dehydration is one of the most underappreciated contributors to poor microcirculation in older adults. As we age, our thirst mechanism becomes less reliable. We simply do not feel thirsty as readily as we did in our younger years. This means many older adults are mildly dehydrated on a daily basis without even knowing it, and that can thicken the blood ever so slightly, reducing its ability to flow efficiently through the smallest vessels in the body, including those feeding the inner ear. Make sure you are drinking enough water throughout the day. A simple target is to aim for light to pale yellow urine as a general indicator of adequate hydration. It sounds almost too simple, but it genuinely matters. Beyond hydration, foods and habits that support healthy circulation can also be beneficial. Omega 3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, like wild salmon, sardines, and mackerel, have been widely studied for their role in maintaining flexible, healthy cell membranes and supporting vascular health. Ginger, garlic, and beetroot are among the natural foods that have been explored for their potential to support healthy blood flow. None of these are magic cures, but as part of an overall approach to better nutrition and circulation support, they are meaningful and safe additions to your regular diet. And here is something I want to make sure you hear loud and clear, because this is a warning that could actually be making your tinnitus worse without you knowing it. There is a category of substances known as ototoxic compounds, which essentially means things that may cause harm to the auditory system. And some of the most common items in this category are things you probably have in your medicine cabinet right now. Certain common over the counter pain relievers, when taken frequently and in high doses, have been associated in some research with increased tinnitus symptoms or worsening of existing ringing. This includes some non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications that many people take regularly for arthritis, pain, joint discomfort, or headaches. I want to be very clear here. I am absolutely not telling you to stop any medication that your doctor has prescribed or recommended for you. Please never do that without speaking to your doctor first. What I am saying is that if you are taking certain pain relievers regularly and you have tinnitus, it is worth having a specific conversation with your healthcare provider about whether there are alternatives that may be gentler on your auditory system. This is exactly the kind of conversation that often does not happen because nobody connects those two dots together. Let me also talk briefly about something that affects a huge number of people over 60 and almost nobody links to their ear ringing, and that is vitamin D. Vitamin D is not just about bone health. Research has been increasingly revealing its role as what some scientists describe as a neuroactive steroid, meaning it has direct effects on the functioning of the nervous system. Some studies suggest that people with chronic tinnitus tend to have lower vitamin D levels than those without the condition. Vitamin D receptors have been found throughout the auditory pathway, which tells us the body does intend for this vitamin to play a role in ear and nerve function. Getting 15 to 20 minutes of morning sunlight when possible, eating vitamin D rich foods like wild salmon, eggs, and fortified dairy, and discussing supplementation levels with your doctor are all worthwhile steps. Here's another thing I want you to know, and this one surprised even me when I first started seeing the research on it. Sleep quality and tinnitus have a deeply intertwined relationship. When you are sleep deprived, your nervous system becomes hypersensitive. Your auditory cortex essentially turns up its gain, meaning it amplifies incoming and internal signals more aggressively. This is why so many tinnitus sufferers describe the ringing as absolutely unbearable in the middle of the night or during periods of insomnia, and then the ringing keeps them awake, which worsens the sleep deprivation, which in turn makes the ringing worse. It is a cycle that can feel truly relentless. Addressing sleep quality directly is not just about comfort. For many people, it may be one of the most impactful things they can do to manage their tinnitus experience. This means establishing a consistent sleep schedule, keeping the bedroom cool and dark, avoiding screens for at least an hour before bed, and finding a wind down routine that genuinely relaxes your nervous system. Some people find that gentle background sounds not to mask the tinnitus, but to create a soothing acoustic environment, help their brain shift out of that hypervigilant listening mode that makes tinnitus so intrusive at night. Now, I promised you earlier that I would give you something practical to walk away with today, a real starting point. So, here is your tinnitus support action plan beginning tonight. First, take a look at your dinner. Look, can you make tonight's meal a nutritional power move for your auditory system? A piece of wild caught salmon or sardines gives you omega 3 fatty acids and vitamin D in one shot. Pair it with a generous portion of dark leafy greens like spinach for magnesium. Add a small handful of raw pumpkin seeds as a snack for their zinc content. Drizzle some olive oil and add fresh ginger to anything you can. This is not a cure. This is you beginning to give your body the raw materials it may have been missing. Second, book a conversation with your doctor specifically about your B12 levels, your vitamin D levels, and your magnesium status. Ask them to review your numbers with tinnitus in mind, not just with standard healthy ranges in mind. Ask them what optimal looks like for someone your age who is experiencing neurological symptoms. Third, take an honest look at anything you are taking regularly for pain management and ask your doctor whether it could be affecting your ears. Fourth, make hydration a daily commitment. Carry water with you, drink before you are thirsty. And fifth, protect your ears going forward. Loud environments do cumulative damage to those delicate hair cells we talked about. Use hearing protection when around loud machinery, music, or any sustained loud noise. This is one of the simplest and most underused protective habits for long term auditory health. I want to come back to Margaret for a moment to close this out. When she came back to see me about 8 weeks after we had adjusted her approach, the first thing she said when she sat down was, "It is quieter, not gone, but quieter." And some mornings I wake up and there are a few minutes where I almost forget it is there. She told me she had started sleeping better, her concentration had improved, and she felt less anxious. Overall, that is what I want for you. I want you to feel like you have some agency here, like there are real meaningful steps you can take rather than simply accepting a soundtrack of noise as your permanent future. Living with tinnitus can be exhausting in ways that people who do not experience it simply cannot understand. It affects your focus, your sleep, your mood, your relationships, and your overall sense of peace. You deserve to be taken seriously. You deserve a thorough exploration of every possible avenue of support, and you deserve to go to bed tonight feeling like you did something good for your ears and your nervous system. Tell me in the comments which of these areas resonated most with you today. Was it the B12 connection, the magnesium and stress link, the circulation piece? I genuinely want to know what stood out for you and what you are going to try first. Remember, your body has an extraordinary capacity for healing and recovery when it is given the right environment and the right support. The ringing does not have to be the final word. Keep showing up for yourself, keep asking questions, keep advocating for your own health, and do not let anyone dismiss what you are experiencing. Remember, this video is for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult with your personal doctor before making any changes to your health. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a health tip. See you in the next video.